Hello everybody and welcome back to Waxwing's Beginner Guitar Series. I am Elliot and Waxwing is my music school. This is part 2 of things everyone should know before their first guitar lesson. In this video we will be handling necessary guitar accessories. First off, if you're going to be playing acoustic guitar or electric guitar, you need to have a bunch of guitar picks, right? Now, there are usually these packs that you can get that have a lot of different kinds of thicknesses of the picks, and you can try them out at home, and that's great if you are unclear of what kind of pick that you like to use. Usually hold the guitar pick pretty close to the tip. You don't want to be gripping it way further down. This causes people to drop their pick quite often, and if you're playing an acoustic guitar, you can drop the pick in the sound hole very easily. So you want to hold the pick right close to the tip, and you want most of the picking motion to come from your wrist. So you want to practice moving your wrist to pick. Guitar straps. There are loads of straps. You can spend quite a lot of money on a guitar strap. They're not really necessary unless you are planning on playing standing quite a lot. Now, if you were going to be playing guitar live, then yes, you probably want to have a guitar strap to keep it on your body. But at first, you don't really need to have a guitar strap. And if you do really want one, I would recommend getting a very cheap one. A very important accessory that I think that every student should have is a music stand. You can see behind me I have a music stand. It's just really great for holding up all of your music, your tablature, your chord charts, all those things, so you don't have to either have it on your bed or on the floor or on a desk, and you're going to be craning your neck down all the time. Sometimes guitar puts us in odd positions anyway to practice. We don't want to be putting any more strain on our joints and our necks. So we want to have it propped up in front of us so we can read it without really having to look in a bunch of different ways. Right, so it's a very necessary accessory, and you can get them on Amazon, you can get them at music stores. They're usually not that expensive, but you should be probably thinking about spending between $15 and $50 on one. You don't need one that's $50. You can get those ones that fold up really small, so it's about this size, right? And those are probably around $15 to $20. But I would definitely recommend that every student needs to have a music stand. Our next guitar accessory is the capo. The capo is like a clamp. There are many different kinds. This isn't the only kind. There are many different ones that are all different shapes and sizes, and they all will work pretty fine. I like these the best. They're very simple. It's just a spring-loaded thing. It has a nice thing here protecting the back of the neck of the guitar, so you're not going to scratch it up. What the capo does is that you put it on the neck on a certain fret, and it raises the open strings by however many frets. So if I wanted to play some open chords, we've now changed the key from the open. Now we can put this way up here, play the same open chords. Although I'm playing the same chord shapes, the capo has made the key quite a bit different, so I'm actually playing different chords when I play those chord shapes. The capo isn't really a necessary accessory, but it is fun to play around with, and there are many songs that use a capo, so it's good to have one around, but you're going to be looking at spending between $20 and $30 on one. They're not the cheapest, and so once you get one, you want to hold on to it. Our next guitar accessory is specific for the classical guitar. If you're going to be learning classical guitar and classical music, it's really good to have a footstool. Now these come in many shapes and sizes as well. As you can see, mine has been well used. It is missing the rubber foot here. This one's coming off, but this is the same footstool I bought when I started learning classical guitar when I was 16. And so this just flips out, and it has many different hooks and levels that you can put this into, right? This is meant to prop your left knee up, because when we play classical guitar, the guitar rests on our left knee rather than our right knee. This brings the guitar neck up on this angle and makes it quite a bit easier to reach many of the notes, either up here or down here on the fretboard as well. There are many other accessories for the classical guitar that they have come up with to replace the footstool, like A-frames and things like that, so that you can have both legs stationary, and it suction cups to the side of your guitar, and it can prop it up like this. These are fairly new, and they provide more ergonomic support. They're often a little bit more pricey than a footstool, so I wouldn't invest in getting one unless you are very serious about playing the classical guitar. The next accessory we have on our list are guitar effects pedals. Now these come in many shapes and sizes. In fact, all of the ones that I have to show for you right now are overdrive and distortion pedals. What these will do is they distort the signal of your guitar and make it sound really crunchy or whatever, or just beef up the sound quite a lot. And you'll get that classic electric guitar sound in much of rock and roll, heavy metal, punk rock, or what have you. Now, you don't have to just get these individual size pedals. They have these huge boards which are multi-effects pedals that have basically every type of effect that you would ever want to experiment with. For people who are a little bit more advanced, I would definitely recommend experimenting with some of these individual size pedals. The multi-effects pedals, I would say, are in the price range of $100 to up to $800 depending on what you are getting, sometimes even more than that. Whereas some of these individual pedals, I believe the DS1 from Boss can run you at about $40. Whereas some of these can be $20 all the way up to $800 per pedal, right? So this is usually for people who are a little bit more serious. So there is another type of capo that's really cool, but it's actually quite a bit more niche than the regular type. That's called the spider capo. Now, the spider capo, as you can see, is quite a bit different from our normal clamp capo. The clamp capo holds down all the strings on a certain fret, whereas the spider capo, as you can see, has a particular clamp for each of the strings. So you can choose what strings are being held down and which ones will be held open. So there are actually a lot of really cool applications for this accessory, that you can have a normal capo on and a spider capo on higher up, and you can choose what strings to hold down. It means there are many different things that you can do with this. Opens up a lot more doors in the open tuning department of the guitar. Our next accessory is specific for the electric guitar or for an acoustic electric. So if you want to plug into an amplifier, you need to have patch cords, okay? Typically, if you're going directly from the guitar into the amp, you just need one, and you want to make sure that it's long enough that you can be a little bit of a distance away from the amp and not get feedback. This is a Yorkville patch cord. Yorkville is a run-of-the-mill patch cord brand that they carry at Long and McQuaid, and these are actually under lifetime warranty. So if they get damaged, if they stop working, you can take it back and they'll exchange it, and they'll actually repair these and resell them. You'll also need patch cables if you want to run your signal through effects pedals. So for multi-effects pedals, you will likely only need 2 patch cables, one going from the guitar to the effects pedal, from the effects pedal to the amplifier. If you're using a lot of those individual pedals, you might want to have some of these smaller patch cables. These are fairly cheap. You can pick up a bunch of them. You can get the cheapest ones that you can if you like. If you're going to be daisy chaining a whole lot of pedals together, it's good to have quite a few of them. So the patch cable, one end, doesn't matter which end, plugs into the side of your guitar, and then the other end goes into your amplifier. Our next guitar accessory is more of a necessity than an accessory. Having extra strings. It's always good to have an extra pack of strings around just in case you break a string. You don't want to have to run to the store and buy a pack of strings when you need one really badly. You want to have a few lying around. So these can come in packs of 3. These are for the electric guitar. I would recommend the D'Addario brand. That would go for the electric guitar, the acoustic guitar, and for the classical guitar as well. They make strings for all of these different guitars, and they are the industry standard. I would also recommend that if you are playing a brand new guitar from the store, that you change the strings pretty immediately. Now, you can have a guitar technician at the store you bought it change the strings for you, or you can do it at home. This is important because the strings that they put on in the factory are usually pretty bad. If I was buying a new guitar, that would be one of the first things that I would do. Along with having extra strings, you can have a guitar tuning head winder. They're not as necessary as having extra strings or even like having patch cable. This brings us to some of the most important accessories that an aspiring student should have in their arsenal. First of all is a guitar tuner. Guitar tuning technology has progressed quite a lot. You can still have them as an external machine. They have the ones now that you can clip on the top of your headstock and it tunes your guitar based on the vibrations. So it's not just picking up the sound. So that can be very useful if you're trying to tune your instrument in a noisy room and whatnot. And those probably go for about $20 or $30. But if you don't want to buy an external tuner, that's totally cool. There are free tuning apps that you can get for your smartphone now, and they work just fine. Sometimes they might be a little bit finicky, but for the most part, that's what I use. I use a tuner just on my smartphone. I use the app G Strings. I think it's the first tuning app I ever downloaded on a smartphone, and I've continued to use it since. The next accessory that I should bring up is a metronome. A metronome is usually those things that you see, they're like little triangles and they have that thing going back and forth keeping time, and they can go faster and slower and whatnot. Well, those are pretty old school. You can have one of those if you like. You can also have an electronic metronome, which you can set the tempo and it'll just beep or click to the beat as well. These things are so indispensable for keeping time and for learning rhythm. Every guitar student needs to have a metronome. Now, they're not the most glamorous thing ever. They're not like the guitar effects where they're super fun, but they will make you a better player if you use them. And we will be using the metronome in further lessons. Now, you also don't need to have a metronome machine. You can get a metronome app for your smartphone as well. I have an app on my smartphone called Metronome Beats. It's also a free app, and there are hundreds of metronome apps that are out there for free. Now, if you don't have a phone, you can also do this by going on a computer and just looking up a free tuning app or looking up a metronome app or a website. But I'm assuming since you're watching this video, you probably have a computer of some sort, so you can use that to tune your guitar or get a metronome to keep time. That is a short list of accessories for the guitar, the ones that I think are the most important to introduce you to, and some of the most important that you want to get. I would ignore getting guitar effects pedals as a beginner, but definitely a lot of these other ones, music stand, guitar picks, footstool if you're learning classical guitar, tuner, metronome, those are all things that you really want to have right off the bat. I'd like to add that I'm not sponsored by any of these companies or the specific things that I had recommended. These are just things that I've used in the past that have made my life a lot easier. For instance, Long & McQuaid has no affiliation with me. The G Strings app I have no affiliation with, same thing with Metronome Beats. These are just things that I am recommending as a professional to the student. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Don't feel like you need to run out and get all of these accessories all at once. The most important ones to have would be a metronome app, a tuner app, both of which you can get for free, having a music stand, having some guitar picks, and most of the other ones can wait. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in part 3 where we talk about tuning the guitar and much more.